Lights, camera, scandal. Look out, Hollywood. A current affair is still in town. It's a Hollywood affair. She was Johnny Carson's ditzy blonde sidekick. All America loved Carol Wayne.
Wow, hi.
But then they found her drowned in the ocean. Was it an accident? Was it suicide? Or was it murder?
I don't think she committed suicide.
Finally, some answers. The mystery of Carol Wayne. My Wicked, Wicked Dad. Errol Flynn's daughter reveals stunning new secrets about Hollywood's most notorious ladies' man.
At least he had a good time. You know he had a good time, so...
Before Rob Lowe, before Warren Beatty, my dad, Errol Flynn. She was an actress in B-movies. Then she played out her last scene in Mexico. Now her best friend is in the ultimate supporting role as an Avenger, the B-movie murder. Hello, everyone. I'm Maury, Povich, and welcome to another star-studded Hollywood affair. We're here in Malibu, where the stars live on the beach. The ocean is a place where one celebrity life ended. Carol Wayne, TV's big, wide-eyed, lovable bombshell. No one knows really what happened to Carol Wayne, why she was found dead in the water. But our Bill McGowan has found some of the answers to the mystery of Carol Wayne.
I got a great chest.
No.
That's the most interesting thing about me.
For those who knew and loved Hollywood bombshell Carol Wayne, no epitaph could be further off the mark.
She was not a dumb blonde. She was a bright woman. But the image, the gorgeous face, and spectacular figure, and that little voice, made it sound like she was not a rocket scientist. But in fact, she was a very bright girl.
I just happened to look this way. Guess I ate right as a kid or something.
She was wide-eyed and kind of vulnerable, and everything was kind of a surprise to Carol.
But few ever thought Carol's vulnerability could lead to a premature and senseless death, which 5 years later remains something of a mystery. How could this woman, who could not swim and never liked to be near water, drown in a shallow, calm bay? A tragically ironic demise, especially considering the cliché joke she inspired.
Hi, wow, hi.
This lady will never drown.
That was amazing. Yeah, a lot of people mentioned it to me. That she had her own water rings type of thing was the joke, but then to have it actually happen.
Comedian Pat McCormick met Carol Wayne back in the days when he wrote for Johnny Carson. It was on The Tonight Show that most of us got our first glimpse, or should I say eyeful, of Carol Wayne as Carson's sidekick in the Tea Time movie skits.
Johnny Carson did a ton of shows with Carol, and Johnny does not work with people that are not professional. When Johnny enjoys somebody, the whole country enjoys them, and Johnny had a good time with Carol.
Carol Wayne was a favorite with all the legends of show business. Somehow, in a town where sexy starlets are a dime a dozen, Carol Wayne managed to become a household name, thanks to a figure that could even turn Paul Lynde's head. But when The Tonight Show was scaled back to 1 hour, Carol's skit was scratched. With her career hitting a dry spell, Carol decided to bear all for Playboy magazine in February of 1984. By then, she was divorced twice, reportedly on the verge of bankruptcy, and some say dependent on drugs and alcohol. Perhaps a good reason why in January of 1985, she flew off to Mexico with a man named Ed Durston for what was to be a week of rest and relaxation. Carol Wayne was reportedly facing eviction and bankruptcy back in Los Angeles. So for her, Los Hadas had to have been a get-away-from-it-all vacation. But hotel employees said that she was spending money like there was no tomorrow, and that she needed to borrow more after only a couple of days, leading some to wonder whether this was a break-the-bank vacation or a farewell binge. Some had speculated that she didn't quite have her act together, that it was drugs or alcohol.
Those are people referring to like a year before that, or maybe as late as 6 months. But at that time, all those things might have been true a year before, a year and a half before. But in my opinion, not at that time.
After a week in these luxurious surroundings, Carol Wayne and her companion were suddenly faced with the reality of heading back home. Whether they were delaying the inevitable or just plain late, the two of them missed the last flight out. The plane left for L.A. without them. Carol and her companion now had no choice. They had to spend another night in Manzanillo. But when they came back to Las Hadas, their room and the rest of the hotel was fully booked. So a staff member helped them find lodging at a cheaper hotel down the beach, which is where their week in paradise took an ugly turn. Carol and Ed Durston wound up at the Hotel Playa de Santiago, the last place she would be seen alive. As a representative of the American consulate, William LeCoq investigated Carol's mysterious death.
My investigation revealed that she had been heavy on drugs, and she and her then boyfriend had an argument at the Playa de Santiago Hotel, and she had taken off from that argument.
She didn't like the accommodations?
She didn't like the accommodations. I guess she was just mad at everything. So after I found out that she had just run off, I did some checking and found out that her boyfriend had also checked out of the hotel.
Before she came back?
Before she came back.
Ed Durston checked himself into a nearby hotel while Carol Wayne was still missing, only to return to Playa Santiago the following evening to check out for himself and Carol Wayne.
That night, he had taken the luggage, all of her clothes, went to the airport, left them at the airport, and said she'll be back and pick him up. And he took off.
Under a blistering sun the following morning, a commandant in the Manzanillo Police Department discovered Carol Wayne's fully clothed body laying on the beach. The Mexican authorities launched an investigation. The question to be answered, did a distraught Carol Wayne walk into the sea out of desperation? The consensus is impossible.
Suicide, I would say, definitely not. And the fact she didn't like the water made it strange that it was an accident.
I don't think she committed suicide. But I can't prove it. And of course the authorities here would like to question the party involved. But I don't think he'll ever return to Manzanillo.
With several questions unanswered, we asked the Manzanillo authorities to go back into their records and pull the Carol Wayne file. What is the conclusion? Homicide or suicide?
La conclusión oficial fue que...
The official conclusion was that it was an accidental death. The body didn't show any signs of physical violence. There was no evidence that it was a homicide, although the situation was unusual.
The police say the best theory they have is that Carol Wayne went walking along some slippery rocks and accidentally fell into the water. Ironically, the man who was with Carol Wayne before she died was no stranger to tragedy. He was the same man reportedly there when Art Linkletter's daughter committed suicide in 1969. Yet the Mexican police had no authority to question Durston after he returned home. An unsolved mystery.
Unsolved. But I don't think it was a drowning. It was drowning, of course. But there's more to it than that.
She stood out as an original. I think we lost one. We lost a very valuable asset.
You must miss her.
Yeah, I do. I think about her quite a bit, especially when, at certain occasions or something, at a party or meet somebody or someplace where we were and stuff. I still do miss him. Yeah.
Now, he was the most oversexed man Hollywood has ever seen. Now the legend's daughter tells secrets about her wicked, wicked dad.
At least he had a good time. You know he had a good time.
Will we blush next? And later, she sought fame in B-movies, but made headlines when she was murdered. This is a legendary site in the Hollywood Hills. This is where Errol Flynn's pleasure palace used to stand. The only thing left now is the shell of a swimming pool. Wild things went on here. Wilder things than we could have ever imagined. Because Errol Flynn's daughter is yapping like nobody's yapped before. Our Steve Dunleavy heard the tales of her infamous daddy.
Welcome to Sherwood, my lady.
Errol Flynn, the last of the red-hot lovers, a sex symbol before the phrase was invented. Every boy's dream of being a man, and every girl's dream of being romance.
Errol Flynn, in the whole history of Hollywood, was probably the most charming man who ever lived. Errol could charm the pants off of you, which he often did with women.
James Bacon, veteran Hollywood columnist, was there at the golden era of Hollywood when Flynn swashbuckled his way across the screen and across the bedroom of some of the country's most beautiful women.
He liked his whiskey aged, he liked his woman young.
It is hard to believe that the man who still dashes across our late-night TV delivering damsels in distress has been dead for 21 years. But he lives daily in the heart of his photographer daughter, Rory Flynn, who remembers him first as Flynn, the father.
He considered himself, as most people considered him, a Don Juan, a swashbuckler, a romancer, and I think he was taken in by all of this. That became the major, the symbol. I mean, this became him instead of the actor that he was, and he was a damn good actor. And it's a shame that he didn't find that out, you know, because he would have found it out. If he had lived, he would have found it out.
Oh, hello there. You must excuse me, but signing these pictures is a job I can't very well leave to anybody else.
But the public Flynn gave some of his most exhilarating performances in the bedroom, particularly with young girls. He was once charged and then cleared of making love with two 15-year-old girls on his yacht.
Errol Flynn was the type of guy who never had a girl over 18 years of age. I remember he brought Linda Christian up from Mexico. She swam out to his yacht one day, and she was I guess she mistress. She turned 18, she couldn't get him on the telephone.
But his most notorious and sizzling affair was with 15-year-old Beverly Ardland, a nymphette who he publicly loved and lavished his attentions. Rory recalls a particularly warm and vivid memory when she was a gawky, confused teenager.
I went up in the room, and my dad was sitting there with Beverly. She was sitting on his lap on the couch, and I kind of interrupted them. They were sort of smooching. And I said, oh, you know, I'm sorry. I was kind of embarrassed. And he says, no, darling, come in, come in. And he cupped one of her breasts. And he says, I think you're going to be just like her. And I can't tell you how this changed my life. I mean, it made me feel so good.
And then there were other, more childish memories, like the day when Errol refused to pay $10 to take Beverly, Rory, and her sister to an amusement park.
The next thing I know, my dad is scrambling over the fence, and he's going, come on, guys, come on. Beverly throws off her high-heel shoes, and she goes scrambling. Of course, my sister and I can't wait to get over the fence, you know. I mean, we're tomboys, and we're, you know, scrambling over. We get over the other side, and he says, now, if anybody comes, you tell them we're lost. The next thing we know, we're on the roller coaster, and we're riding.
This is a last resting place in Forest Lawn Cemetery for one of the last of the all-time great lovers. For a long time, there was no headstone here. Headstones cost money. You see, despite the millions of dollars that he made for the studios he swashbuckled across the screen, and despite his full, rich life, Errol Flynn died practically broke.
A lot of people think that because he's Errol Flynn, he was a millionaire, but he died broke.
Rory has written a touching short story about the last 2 weeks of his life in 1959, and she wants the world to know Errol Flynn, the father, instead of Errol Flynn, the philanderer.
I'm very proud of my dad. I'm so proud of him. And it's because he made so many people happy. I mean, I have women that come up to me in tears in their eyes, you know. They just loved him so much.
Errol Flynn, last of the Hollywood Hellraisers, one of the last of the Hollywood greats. There'll never be anyone quite like him.
Now, a tragic saga still continuing. The death of a starlet. Patty McMahon was like so many others who come to Hollywood with dreams of having her own star here on the Walk of Fame. Instead, all she got was a tombstone. It was something out of a B movie. In fact, Patty was a star of B movies, right up until the time she was murdered. Our Robin Dorian tells us of the death of a starlet.
It's a tropical paradise, long white beaches, warm sunny days, endless margaritas, and continuous mariachi music. Business in Mazatlan, Mexico is booming, with Americans looking to relax and forget, which is exactly what attracted California actress Patty McMahon. Patty had been in a few movies and was hoping things would really take off for her, but she felt she needed a break.
On May 1st of last year, Patty McMahon and her best friend, Sheri Snow, came here to this beach in Mazatlan. It was their big getaway, their dream vacation. But within 3 hours after they had arrived, that vacation turned into a nightmare. Patty disappeared.
They had just arrived in Mexico, checked into their hotel room, and headed for the beach.
And then we sat on the beach, and she goes, you know, Sheri, she said, this is so wonderful. She said, I never want to leave here. She says, I love it here. I will never want to leave.
It would be the last time Sheri Snow and Patty McMahon had a conversation together. Afterwards, Patty went swimming, and Sheri stayed on the shore.
All of a sudden, I saw another person swimming with her, you know. And then I looked, and I thought, oh, you know, Patty found a friend, just because she's a very friendly person. So I turned to prepare her towel for when she came out of the water in her little area, and I'm preparing it, and then I'm looking.
Patty McMahon was gone. For the next 18 hours, Sheri Snow searched for her best friend. By sunup, there were still no answers. When the locals returned to the beach for work, Sheri questioned every boat driver, every vendor. One finally had the answer.
I'm sure it's not her, he says, but in the local newspaper there was a picture of a dead American girl that had found that had been strangled over on Deer Island that night. And I'm thinking, please, dear God, don't let it be her, don't let it be her, you know. Then he pulls the paper and he goes, here. And I look down, you know, and it was, I said, that's my friend, that's Patty, that's my friend.
Behind me is Deer Island, and this is where Patty was found. At this point, no one seems to know how she got there. But when they found her, she had been raped, beaten, and strangled to death.
She really loved life, enjoyed life, you know, every day. And it's so unfair, this would happen. Because she was really looking forward to a vacation.
Patty's sister Linda is her only surviving relative.
I just couldn't imagine how something like that can happen here. I mean, it was broad daylight, and all these tourists that are around.
The police theory is that Patty met a local Mexican man, and he took her to Deer Island for what she thought was sightseeing. Now, almost 1 year to the day, Patty's friend and sister have returned to Mazatlan, hoping to seek justice.
I want the person caught, but I don't want the wrong person caught.
Police say it was this man, Adriel Bastidas, who killed Patty McMahon, and 6 months ago they arrested him. But Adriel insists he is a man so pious that he always carries a Bible, and claims he was at a religious retreat on the day Patty was killed.
You're a very religious man, and obviously the truth is very important to you.
Sure.
Did you kill Patty McMahon?
I did it. I did it.
You did it?
I did it.
No, you did not kill Patty McMahon.
However, police have a signed confession from Adriel Bastidas stating that he was with Patty. Bastidas counters by saying they beat him into signing the document.
I signed it because, you know, they hit me a lot, you know, and I don't take control of my time to say it, those information, you know. But I signed the paper.
After 2 days in Mazatlan, Linda and Sheri returned to the United States, knowing there is a man who may serve time for the murder of Patty McMahon, but never knowing if it is the right man.
I hope if they convict this man, that the judge, I hope he'll make the right decision and give him the maximum. That would make me very happy. Won't bring Patty back, but I'll be very happy with that.
Uh-oh, I'm getting strange vibes here. Shirley MacLaine must be at it again. Coming up next, the uproar over Shirley's latest spiritual adventure. Shirley MacLaine's going out on a limb again. This time, Shirley might be in trouble. Shirley MacLaine's at it again, but the far-out superstar may have gone too far this time. She's moved onto her own magic mountain and right into a furious uproar over outer space and wide open spaces. It's Shirley's latest vision.
It's a wonderful area.
Also, Twin Peaks. A Current Affair solves the murder of Laura Palmer. All week, it's a Hollywood affair. That's tomorrow as we continue our special Hollywood week here on A Current Affair. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Whew. Until next time, America.